All right, look, you haven't got much time. Give me 3 things you would do if you were president tomorrow. Top priorities.
Oh, let me talk about executive leadership. I will have a bipartisan cabinet of the best and brightest Americans, Democrats and Republicans. I will have a youth cabinet. I will employ zero-based budgeting. I will actually manage our federal government in a fiscally responsible manner. I will address the southern border, which is an unmitigated mess and disaster, inhumane, horrible for our economy and our international reputation, and we must reform our asylum policies. And then I will do what is most important for Americans right now. Costs and chaos are out of control. Life is unaffordable. 60% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, 40% cannot afford a $400 emergency. We've got to attack affordability, and we've got to end the chaos, not just in the United States, but all around the world. End the wars, invest in peace, and bring this country together and do our best to bring this world together before it's too late, Piers. And that's going to take all of us. And by the way, as some have noted, Jamie Dimon, about Biden condemning all Trump supporters, I welcome and invite Trump supporters. I love everybody. As long as you are people of principle and decency and want to work together, Piers, we got to change this nonsense. The two parties are the problem. And I'm running for change, and I don't mind that disruption because I think most people want it.
Well, it's good of you to join me, Mr. Phillips. I would personally say you probably have 2 hopes of succeeding, no hope and Bob hope, but I do admire the aspiration. And I actually like the cut of your jib as well. So you never know in politics, right?
Hey, you never know. You got to give it a shot. And by the way, mark my words, watch here in New Hampshire on January 23rd, just 4 days from now. You might be surprised.
I look forward to it. I would love to be surprised. Dean Phillips, thank you very much indeed for joining me. Charlemagne, you got...
What an optimist you are, P.
You know what I am? I'm an optimist tinged with being a realist, right? You've got to be real about this. I don't think Joe Biden has shown any indication of wanting to stand down at all. Unless he voluntarily does that, is persuaded to, he is going to be the nominee, right? And for someone like you, you've become, with your show, various shows, but The Breakfast Club in particular has this extraordinary number of young black people who tune in religiously to listen to it, to watch it, and to think, what do they want? What do they want from their president? I mean, they've got 2 elderly white guys right, running for president. This is not an Obama 2008-9 scenario. What do they want to happen here?
Well, when you talk about it in those terms, number one, they want both of them to step out the way. They want the GOP to move away from Trump. They want, Democrats to move away from Biden. But I don't care who you talk to. Most folks you speak to want upward mobility. Like, it's all about money. Like, that's the conversation that they should be having. When they're having conversations about, creating jobs, when they're having conversations about the economy being better, that's great. But is it trickling down to the least of us? Is it trickling down to the hood? Is it trickling down to the rural areas like where I'm from in Moncks Corner, South Carolina? If those people aren't feeling the relief, then they feel like, what you're doing isn't necessarily.
And what did you feel about Jamie Dimon, who says that, if you just ridicule and mock the MAGA crowd, the really hardcore Trump supporters, it's wrong, that you should respect all Americans, right? They're entitled to their opinion, entitled to vote for who they want to vote for. I thought he had a point. He also had a point that if you just over-demonize Trump, I think I said on your show, I met Chris Rock after the 2016 election the next day, and he said, if someone's murdered 8 people, don't go around saying he's murdered 9 about Trump. In other words, if you just exaggerate how bad he is, people are going to find out.
Well, see, that was 2016. I think in 2024, we kind of see what a Trump presidency is like and how bad it could potentially be. And
what are you most worried about with him?
I'm worried about, the threat to democracy seriously, because when you hear a guy say, hey, we should get rid of the Constitution in order to overturn the results of election, like when you hear a guy say, you hear his lawyers in court say, well, he never agreed to support the Constitution. It's like, whoa, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, black, white, gay, straight. If you're an American citizen, you cannot have a leader of the free world who does not respect the Constitution.
Dave, you can't have someone who doesn't respect the Constitution.
No, you can't. Well, first off, the beauty of America and our system and the Constitution and the rest of our founding documents is that they work, and we've separated powers enough so that guys like Donald Trump potentially, if he wanted to be dictator, it's not that you just flip a switch and suddenly you're dictator.
So why are they not using the 14th Amendment then?
Well, hold on a second. I would also say that if you look at the actual reality of Trump's presidency pre-COVID, the economy was booming. Yeah. We had the Abraham Accords, lowest all-time black unemployment, lowest all-time Latino unemployment. And you may remember at the State of the Union when he mentioned that, and AOC and the rest of the Congressional Black Caucus sat there like this. I thought they would have been for low black unemployment. So Trump has done a lot of things right. and I'm saying this as somebody that wasn't even supporting him 3 days ago. I mean, I'm a DeSantis guy. I moved to Florida because
Jamie Dimon, to be fair, look, to be clear, he's not a big Trump supporter.
But
he's
reality.
He's locked horns with Trump a few times. He's donated to the Democrats, right? It's not, and Trump has rubbished him in public about doing business in China. So it's not like he's a diehard Trumper himself. He just made the point, which I think is right, which is if you just abuse everyone that votes for him, you are basically committing an act of self-harm.
What I would recommend anyone do as this election keeps going is as the rallies start again, and I did not vote for Trump in 2016. I did vote for him the first time, but the second time. And one of the reasons that I ended up doing it was one day in LA, I happened to drive by a rally and I was like, you know what, let me just go in there and see what's going on. And there were black people and there were Latinos and gays for Trump. And it was a joy fest. It was a party. American flags everywhere. It wasn't some coalesced idea of let's take out democracy or take out the Marxists or anything else. It was basically kind of like an FU to the system and then just this mix of politics. I mean, that's the
All right,
interesting
Jessica,
thing
were
about
you at
Trumpism.
this party he's talking about?
I wasn't invited. There were gays, blacks, Latinos, but no liberals.
What did you think? What did you think of
There
Jamie?
were an awful lot of liberals.
Yeah, there were 4
actually.
Bernie Sanders voters who probably didn't turn up.
What did you think of Jamie Dimon's comments? Because they were interesting.
I think Jamie Dimon runs a huge international business, and you can see a line in the sand with how people who don't want to lose customers talk about all of this, and they have to do it that way. And that's correct. But as someone who spends my time in conservative media with people who vehemently disagree with me, I've had it up to here. If I could clutch my pearls any harder, whatever it is. They try to say that liberals talk the same way about conservatives that conservatives talk about liberals. If Donald Trump wins the presidency again, you will have a president who calls more than half the country, 81 million voted for Joe Biden, 74 million for Trump, calls us thugs, pedophiles, communists, Marxists, anti-Americans, traitors. I'm not being welcomed into any sort of
I have a question. I have a
there.
question for you, which I asked Charlemagne yesterday. How many immigrants did Barack Obama deport in 8 years?
He's the deporter in chief, and I've said it.
Do you know how many
times
it
on the
is?
mic.
3 million.
2 million now.
He only knows because I told him. He hadn't got a Scooby yesterday.
I thought it was only 2.
It's over 3 million. It was the greatest number pro rata of any president in history.
Yes, and
He
it
was
did
the
not hurt him with
deporter-in-chief.
Latino voters. I say it all the time on the 5. Biden can get tougher about this. Henry Cuellar, he's got it right how he's talking about it. The border Dems, the Mark Kellys of the world, that's all fine and good. But to your point about what this world looked like or this country before COVID, Trump's setting all these records. Guess what? Biden's done better than his records. So black unemployment is lower than it was under Trump. Latino unemployment lower than under Trump. Let's talk about oil. I can't even tell you how many times I've been told, drill, baby, drill. Well, Joe Biden's doing it. 13.3 million barrels. It's the highest amount of oil produced by any country in history.
Good sales pitch. But here's the critical question for all of you, and it's a one-word answer. If it's Biden-Trump in November,
Who am I voting for?
Who wins?
I do believe Biden wins.
Trump.
Charlemagne, the casting votes.
But by the way, that's what's so scary about it. Like,
Right, that you have to think.
And by the way, you don't have to want this to happen.
But you're talking about, I know, but you're talking about a guy who has 91 criminal charges, a guy who says he wants to be a dictator for a day, a guy who says we should rip up the Constitution.
Against a guy who doesn't know what day it is.
And that's what I'm saying. So if Biden has done all of these great things and he's up against that and we're still not sure
I need a name,
win,
Charlemagne.
Is he winnable? I really don't know.
You got to give me a name.
Who's going to win?
Biden v. Trump.
It's
The
not
rematch.
Dean Phillips.
It's not going to be Dean Phillips. I really, truly don't know. If I had to say right now, I would say Donald Trump.
Wow. There we go, the casting vote. Charlemagne the God, the man with his finger on the pulse of America. Trump.
Maybe, but I don't know. I really.
It's a long time.
That's what's so scary about it.
There's a long time to go. Brilliant to have you all. Thank you very
Thank
much
you so
indeed.
much.
Thanks, Piers.
I'm